I'll see you after class.
Among many of the expansion features in Shadowlands, one of the most important choices players must make is choosing what covenant they decide to go with. Players while leveling will sample what each covenant offers to the player, the signature covenant ability, the class covenant ability, and the Soulbind system. Over the last few alpha iterations, every covenant spell offered to the player is now fully testable, giving us a better idea on how these abilities are meant to work. While it is still alpha and things can change, the covenant system in its entirety is not fully complete, as the Soulbind system is still in its very early stages. From the small scraps of information that we have about the Soulbind system, the way it will work will be in this manner. As you join any covenant, you will have 2 out of the 3 available Soulbind options, with the third Soulbind option being available later through a covenant-specific questline. Each Soulbind will have conduit slots, some already filled with predetermined effects and others are empty. The empty slots can be one of 3 varieties: utility, survival, or throughput, and they can be only filled with conduit gems that matches the appropriate slot and will reward you with a bonus depending on the gem, something very similar to the Legion artifact relics, and we can probably assume that it will be collected in the same way also. For now, we will stop looking at soulbinds until further implementation on the system happens and actual testing can be done on it, so we will move on to the signature covenant abilities. All covenants offer a utility spell as well as a class specific spell. The utility that is provided depends on whom you choose. Kyrians offer increased recovery and removal of most harmful effects. Necrolord offers increased survivability. Ventir offer instant mobility when cast, and Night Fae offer overall increased mobility. Depending on what class you play and what parts of the game you actively engage in, will shape your overall choice of what covenant you want to go with. Summon Steward is the Kyrian ability, and it allows you to call upon a Swolkin, who will give you a Phial of Serenity which has 3 charges. This potion will heal your character for 15% of your max HP and removes all diseases, poisons, curses, and bleeds. The problem with this ability is that it's very weak in its base form. On Alpha currently, 15% of your max HP is less healing received than a health potion. But not only that, it will also currently activate the cooldown for potions, so its only use is to remove the debuffs until it heals equal or better than a health potion. The healing from Phial of Serenity, however, will increase later into the expansion, when players have more HP and will eventually outshine the health potions from alchemy. Recovery utility also tends to be one of the weaker utility options, as it requires the player to have missing HP. If the player is at max HP, it has no use, and if they get one shot, it still has no use. The term "a prevention is better than the cure" will always ring true, as it's better to avoid damage or at best mitigate it than it is to recover from it instead. Door of Shadows allows the user to teleport to a targeted location in 35 yards after a short cast time. Currently it works if you can see it, you can get to it, and is a unique movement ability, as it's not affected by the infamous Pathfinder system that is present on other movement abilities such as Heroic Leap. The 35 yard range and 1 minute cooldown will give the player good opportunity to use this ability in a defensive or offensive manner by bypassing dangerous areas, returning to your target faster, and can also be used as an easy solution to bypass groups of enemies. Fleshcraft will allow the player to slowly build up to 20% max HP shield over 4 seconds, or up to 50% if a corpse of a powerful enemy is nearby. What's great about this ability is that it improves the defensive capabilities of your character. This will however require you to be proactive with the ability instead of reactive. There are issues with this ability, however. It requires 4 seconds of channeling, which is quite long, and while channeling you cannot block, dodge, or parry attacks, so for tanks you can only plan using this ability when you aren't actively tanking the boss or during intermissions. Luckily the shield lasts for 2 minutes, so you can always apply during downtime or before combat and still have a relatively positive effect from using this ability. Soul Shape is the Night Fae ability, and when used grants the player 12 seconds of 30% increased movement speed, and Soul Shape turns into Flicker, a short range teleport of 10 yards every 4 seconds. This movement utility ability is better for long distance movement and will shine on fights where you have to move away from your target and move back in. The problems at the moment is that auto attacking a target will break Soul Shape early, but casting however will not. The fact that it's a 1.5 minute cooldown makes it less available than Door of Shadows, and 30% movement increase also clashes with certain classes that can move faster or at the same speed, such as druids or shamans. These abilities can however be improved from the Soulbind system. The quality of improvements still remains to be seen as it's still very early, but we can clearly see that the Soulbind system plays a role in improving the utility, Covenant spell, and even possibly the class Covenant ability. Currently, we shouldn't look at just the base utility Covenant ability as the final end all, as there will always be things to modify it, especially when the Covenant feature isn't fully implemented yet, or if things come to worst, Blizzard can always introduce new conduit gems at post-launch patches. For now, if we judge the Covenant utility abilities as baseline, it would be ranked in this manner. The other reward for joining a Covenant is a class-based Covenant ability. And there's quite a choice of what you may want to choose, some great for PvP or PvE depending on what content excites you the most, but of course there are some clear frontrunners when it comes to output if you are only interested in min-maxing. While I want to talk about every spell for each class in this video will be a bit too long and the information itself will be better presented when Shadowlands is almost ready to be released. So for now we will leave it there, and I will do a video about the entire class Covenant spells when the Covenant system has been properly implemented, so you can view both the positives and the negatives of each Covenant before you choose one. Keep in mind that whatever choice you make in the end, as long as you are happy with whatever Covenant you decide to go with, whether it is the utility ability, class ability, the Soulbind, the team, or all of the above as your final deciding factor, all that really matters is what you enjoy to play around with, as you are ultimately playing the game your way, and you will always be able to derive some sort of use from whatever choice you ultimately make. And if not, you can always switch, but be advised to keep the Covenant switching to an absolute minimum. Enjoy your day, and I'll see you in the next video.